Good morning, Mashi.
Good evening, Dennis.
My day today, and I have picked a quote from a novel that I'm a big fan of, that is by many considered to be the greatest American novel ever written.
Oh my God, Ulysses. Oh Jesus,
No, that's an Irish novel.
is it?
Yes.
Oh, people refer to it as the greatest English language novel ever.
Oh, maybe. No, I'm talking about like the great American novel, which is The Great Gatsby.
F. Scott Fitzgerald's
F. Scott.
Gatsby.
Yeah. Also, calling it the Great American Novel is funny. It's like 150 pages. It is very short.
It's a novella.
It's above the novella threshold, I think, but not by a lot. Like you could read it in an afternoon if you set your mind to it, I think.
It's so funny. I was thinking of Mice and Men, also a novella. The
Very
Grapes
good.
of Wrath.
The Pearl, all those Steinbeck ones, yeah.
Yeah, the Steinbeck ones. But F. Scott Fitzgerald, The Gilded Era, sure.
I'm a big fan of The Great Gatsby. And if you read at all about F. Scott Fitzgerald and his wife, whose name escapes me at the moment, they are 100% from that era. Like they would like laugh and giggle and we get stuck in revolving doors in hotels in New York and stuff. They are way off the beaten track. But
yeah,
The Great Gatsby, I think, is full of little pearls and little quotes. And one that I picked that I think might speak to you is from Nick, like most things in the book are. And it's life is much more successfully looked at from a single window.
do you agree with that?
It depends. What harkens to me a little bit is this whole thing we have now with social media where you only see the best version of everyone else's life, right? You see everyone else's highlight reel and what they choose to put through it. So that's one thing that jumps out at me about it. The other one is that if you focus on one thing at the cost of everything else, you can look and appear to be very successful in that thing, regardless of how much damage you're doing to the other parts of your life. Let's say you're a workaholic and you bury yourself in your job at the cost of your health and personal relationships, for example, something like that. That's that second one. Obviously, Instagram was around when he wrote this book coming up on 100 years ago. But that is kind of what Nick's talking about at the time. And that's
what he means, for sure. Yeah. I want to context here. I read Gatsby my senior year in high school.
So did I.
I put it somewhere around 97.
I wouldn't put it at 97, but I read it in high school.
He means the second, if I recall, because the whole Gatsby persona, the whole Gatsby image is a sham.
Right.
But, there's now it's funny because I look at it now. I hadn't even thought about Instagram. I thought to myself, as soon as you said that, staring at life through the same window in the same place would just be horrible. I mean, me, I love to travel. I've had the privilege of traveling the world, on a business account. I recommend it.
Okay. Yeah.
Seeing things the same way in however you frame it, whether it's through a window frame or through the context of living life the same way in the same place day after day, is not the best way to live or experience anything.
Well, it depends on what you think he means when he says successfully looked at. It depends on whether you're seeing the most through that one window or the view through that one window is the most pleasing, right? Because if it's the latter, then it's like that, and that's what Gatsby's life is all about, right? He builds up this persona of himself to try to win back Daisy by buying all these extravagant things and like presenting this visage of himself that he wants to be. And if you look at just that visage, it's pretty perfect. There's no flawed, insecure man underneath. And that's what links it to the sort of the social media Instagram thing for me, where if people only present the best versions of themselves, you're the only person who sees the true version of yourself and you see everybody else's highlight reels. But of course, F. Scott didn't know that was going to be the case. But I mean, all people have always presented false of themselves to each other.
Yeah.
It's just easier to do it now.
Is it?
Well, you can present it to thousands of people instead of 10 at a party.
Yeah, you can present it to more people, but I think there's more people watching even when you're off camera now.
That's probably true.
Setting that aside, how is that successful? How are you successfully looking at anything if you never get past the visage? If it's just skin deep and the skin deep portion is all makeup and pizzazz. There's nothing, you're not looking at anything successfully. You're not viewing anything successfully. Maybe if you are the one putting on the image, you are being viewed in a manner that is successful to you, because
it feels successful at least, right?
Yeah. But there's no way, unless you want, This is the statement, the ideology of a person who wishes to delude themselves. And there's many people out there who are
Right.
like that.
That's not uncommon at all. Exactly.
Like, this is fine. Everything's great. It's like the dog, right? Sitting there, the fire's in hell, everything's burning, and he's drinking his coffee.
Well, I mean, it's appropriate that, I mean, you mentioned, the Gilded Age and stuff. The novel set in 1925, there's a big old reality check coming right around the corner for everybody, right?
Right. And I mean, this is the perfect statement for the Gilded Age, right? To gild something is to cover it in gold, but not have it be gold, right?
Not have its core of gold. Yeah, exactly.
Right. Have it be all hat and no steer, as they would say about a fake cowboy.
But so there was a reason it's the Gilded Age and not the Golden Age, right?
Right. And I mean, this is I have told myself many times in my life, so I won't call anyone else out, though I believe this to be common, that I'm happy, that things are good, that everything's going well. And even on paper, when I list the things out on paper, it's like, yeah, money's good. I've got a good job, blah, 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 blah. But I'm not happy.
Mm-hmm.
And we as humans, we're so adaptable. The neuroplasticity in our brains really helps us adapt to everything around us, even horrible conditions, right? If the worst condition at a certain point becomes normal when you go through it long enough, and
it's something I said to Nikki, my wife, a lot during the pandemic, when she was like, God, I don't know how this is going to we're all in a lockdown, everything was closed down and stuff. And I was like, people can get used to anything, and things will become, and pardon the expression, but things will become the new normal. Yep. And then they will go back and they won't be the new normal anymore. And that's just like humans are, if one thing, adaptable and resilient. But harkening back to what you talked about earlier, this whole thing of like presenting one version of yourself, we talk a lot about perspective. And I think, I believe that everybody contains multitudes. And there's I'm pretty confident saying there's nobody in the world I couldn't find some common ground where there's something I agree with them on, right?
Sure.
And some things are more important than others, obviously.
I mean, even Hitler loved dogs.
Sure. Right. Exactly. I'm more of a cat guy, but that's fine. But this whole thing that like, I agree. I don't know if I agree with Nick, certainly in the whole, like, you get the most information out of viewing things through a single window. But I think life is most successfully presented through a single window for sure. But again, it depends on what your definition of successful is.
I can't see that either. Really. We're multifaceted people, and you think that we're best presented just seeing that one narrow facet.
It depends on what you mean by best presented. If you think people will see you, I think you can present a version of yourself that is narrow that people will receive best? I think that's probably true. I'm not saying that's good. I'm not saying it's even long-term sustainable, but I think it is true.
So it's an interesting thing. I struggle. I don't struggle, but I think it's comical. I mean, when I say I don't struggle, it doesn't really bother me in any sense.
Right.
But a lot of people in my life have gotten very bad first impressions of me. Very, very bad first impressions. Before I've said anything, before I've done anything. And it's mainly that I'm a very broy douchebag. That's generally most people's assumption.
I mean, based on what's on the camera right now, I think it's the AirPods, the beads, and the faux hawk that do a lot of the heavy lifting there. And
now, I want to be clear about this. The faux hawk has been here since like 01.
I'm not. Yeah, that's fine. You can be consistent.
The AirPods, new thing, right? I was one of the last to succumb to AirPods.
I still haven't taken the deep dive, and I don't plan to.
Oh,
I'm an over ear can kind of guy.
I'm an over ear can kind of guy. It looks like I'm an AirPod guy because on Zoom calls, sure, I'm an AirPod guy. But at the gym and for every other practical purpose, but those are Beats by Dre.
You're not helping. You're not helping.
But I got them at a discount. They were $100.
Okay, so your single view is Valley douche bro, and that's okay. That comes across.
It's interesting though, because like it's not who I am.
No,
so
not at all.
What does that tell us about taking that one window view? How are we seeing the people around us? Are we being successful if we adopt the attitude that, because I don't think this is someone pleading with others to see them a certain way. So I get that. But what they're saying is, look, the best way to look at me is exactly how I want you to see me.
The problem is there, and we can finish on this sort of note, is that you're taking all of your own internal biases and criticisms and lenses that you apply to the way you view yourself, and using that to filter the only version of yourself that you show to the rest of the world, right?
Of course.
Well, there is plenty of the rest of you that is worthy and interesting and worthy of engaging with and loving, that you don't even necessarily feel that way about, that you end up sequestering, which is a tragedy, I suppose.
And that's the secret sauce. That's what makes each of us unique and beautiful. We all are our own unique, beautiful snowflakes. And I think that hiding that away is hurtful to a person, but it's a crime to everybody else, because you don't know when you're going to find that common ground. For instance, Dennis, you and I were on a call once with our old COO, and he made reference to Doctor Who. And I started laughing, and he goes, do you know Doctor Who? And Dennis is like, don't get him started. Which gets me back to my point about what I do project and how I do come off. Many times, listeners, viewers, many times, like I would say at least 10 times, Dennis has made the comment to me, sometimes I forget how big a nerd you actually are.
Oh, yeah.
So, appearances can be deceiving. Take a second look.
We're all the bird and the worm. We're all the guy taking the lunch money and giving up the lunch money. People contain multitudes. I appreciate that.
Exactly. Well, there you go, Dennis. On that note, have a great morning.
Have a great evening.